Let's be honest, Christian apologetics really isn't all that bright. We've examined enough of them to know that these people have nothing intelligent to say, and most of the time, they're just too terrified to even say it to the people that they pretend to talk to. This time, we're going to do some more of that, because really, what else is there? Here's a small channel called Talks with Christoph, where he wants to talk about honesty with atheists, while not having an honest bone in his body at the same time. This is ridiculously commonplace among the religious because they simply don't understand how to be honest. They're running a scam, and half the time they don't even know they're conning people. They're just mindless shills for irrationality, and they're afraid to even let anyone show them where they're wrong. But hey, what else is new, right?
Hello and welcome to Life Talks with Christoph. It's good to be with you again today. I'm going to be doing a little bit of a series here called Dear Atheist.
That should be good. Now, once again, this is the first time I'm seeing this, so I have no idea if this is going to be interesting or provocative or anything like that. If it is, I might respond to more. If not, I probably won't. So, go ahead, Christoph. Please give us something to sink our teeth into. It really shouldn't be that much to ask.
Today's message is the first of what might be a few or many. We'll see how it goes. But today's message is called Let's Be Honest. Dear Atheist, let's be honest.
Yeah, that would be nice. Now, nothing against Christoph here because I've got no idea what he's going to say, but I point out for the vast majority of religious videos just how dishonest they actually are. They get things entirely wrong, and the only two explanations that I can come up with are dishonesty or stupidity. So, which one is it? Because the information is freely available online with very little effort, so you can't really say that this is unintentional ignorance. Hopefully, Christoph here won't fall into the same trap as so many of his brethren do, but I guess we'll have to see.
I'm speaking, if you don't believe in God at all, this message is for you.
And there's where you may be going wrong. I can't really be sure yet because his first statement that we don't believe in God is true. But only a very tiny minority of atheists actually take the position that there is no God. Yes, phrasing matters. It's one thing that the religious get wrong so often. So again, dishonesty or stupidity. Pick one. Let's hope that he doesn't go down the dishonesty rabbit hole.
Perhaps you do believe in God, but you've got friends in your life who say there is no God. This message is for you too, to hopefully give you some tools to be able to share the truth of Jesus Christ with those people.
Cool. Are you going to be providing objectively verifiable evidence that there is any truth to the stories of Jesus Christ? Because that's really all we've been asking for, and so far, nobody is even making a good faith effort to provide it. If you're going to sit there and talk about honesty, I'm going to hold you to that. Faith and feelings do not provide evidence for anything. You have to do a whole lot better than that.
Now, definition of atheism says there is no God.
Now, immediately, we find out that Christoph here is being dishonest because he went back and blanked out the dictionary definition that he had down in the corner. So allow me to put it back into context here. This is the definition that he once had down in the corner that he dishonestly removed. Atheism is a person who disbelieves or lacks belief in the existence of God or gods. That's what an atheist is. This is apparently not what Christoph wants to pretend that an atheist is, but he completely screwed it up and put in a definition that completely blew his own claim away. That's why he went back and hid it. So let's be honest, Christoph, you're not impressing anyone.
I'm going to make some kind of bold statements, and in the comment sections afterwards, you can either agree or disagree. Tell me your story. But I'm going to start with the supposition of this, is that nobody in this entire world starts out being an atheist.
Well, you're wrong again. Absolutely everyone starts out being an atheist because absolutely no one is born believing in any God. That makes atheism the default position. Now, I know this bothers a lot of theists, which is why they're dishonest about it, as Christoph here tried to be. But that happens to be the reality. Absolutely everyone is born lacking belief in gods. It's only through childhood indoctrination that they come to that belief, usually against their will. Honesty, Christoph, you brought it up.
It's my point of view that being an atheist stems out of a disappointment in your life.
And you're wrong, as usual. You're getting really good at being wrong, too. I don't think you've been right so far. Now, I can only speak for myself, but religion, it never disappointed me, except for the fact that ultimately, religion is completely unsupportable. I never had a minister touch me in a naughty place. I never had any bad experiences with the church. I actually enjoyed it while I was there, and I was very, very involved and invested in my religious beliefs. They just didn't stand up to any kind of rational critical scrutiny. That's why religion tries to keep you from asking the hard questions, because they have no good answers. But you want to know who this often does apply to? Christians. Now, a lot of religions do the same thing, but we're talking about Christianity today, so we're going to stick with that. If you notice, the people that Christians typically go after are the poor and the disaffected and the drug users and the people who are otherwise really messed up. That's their target audience most of the time. Those are the people they think they can offer something to. You don't see them reaching out to the American middle class. You don't see them evangelizing to millionaires. It's always going for the homeless and the destitute and the people they can promise a better life to, even if they can never carry through on those promises. It's really funny how that works, huh?
That at some point when you were younger or at a place in your life where you were questioning, where you were asking the question for the first time, why am I here? What's the purpose of this life? Is there a higher power? Is there a God?
Sure, I think we all ask that at one time or another. The rational among us, though, we realize that most of those are empty, meaningless questions that appeal only to emotion, not to intellect. I think that's the difference between the skeptical and, well, Christoph. Because religion isn't based on rational arguments and evidence and critical thinking. It's based on empty appeals to emotion. Here's something that will make you feel good. Never mind whether or not it's true or defensible or anything like that. You just have to believe it so you'll get that chemical hit in your brain on a regular basis. It keeps you addicted.
At some point in your life, you were asking that question. It might not have been out loud or verbal, but in your heart of hearts, you were saying, what's true? What is it about this life? And at some point, you were disappointed because you didn't get an answer that made sense to you.
Nope. The actual defensible, rational answers make perfect sense. What you really mean is that the answers provided by religion were not automatically and mindlessly adopted because they felt good. That's what all of this is about, after all. Feelings, emotions. It's not about the beliefs being demonstrably true, because that's irrelevant to the religious. It's about appealing to emotion and not intelligence. That's why religion has so much of a problem with intellectual people. They don't fall for your crap.
Maybe you had a loved one that was close to you that passed away, or some other type of hurt. Maybe somebody was sick. Maybe circumstances in your life just didn't work out, and then you came to the conclusion, if God were real, how could he possibly allow this to take place?
Nope, you're still failing by every single metric. Nobody died, nobody got sick. I wasn't blaming God because there's no evidence that God is real. No, this is just a distraction. It's blatant dishonesty because the religious have no actual answers to the actual problems that atheists have with their beliefs. So they have to just make something up. There has to be some explanation beyond Christianity fails the reality test miserably, because that's something they don't want to acknowledge. It hurts their precious little fifis.
So my position again, for every atheist, at some point you were asking the question, and at some point you came to the conclusion, there is no God.
No, I came to the conclusion that all gods, are unsupportable and thus not worth believing in. I love how the religious spend their time telling us what we believe, don't you? They don't ask, they don't verify, they just tell us what they think we're doing, and therefore, that's got to be what we're doing because that's what they assume. You know what they call that? Dishonesty. It's just the best thing they can come up with.
Well, I titled this message, Let's Be Honest, and I'm going to say this, I don't believe it's possible to be an atheist and to be honest at the same time.
Which only proves, once again, that you have no idea what the hell you're talking about. That's not a surprise, but it happens to be true and demonstrably so. How many falsehoods have I caught you spewing in just the first couple of minutes of your video? I think I've lost count. This is really why discussions with the religious never go anywhere, because they think they have all the answers, even when they demonstrably do not, and telling them that they're wrong, that just makes them throw a temper tantrum. Well, they can't be wrong. They have blind faith that they're right.
What do I mean by that? An atheist says there is no God.
Which is still wrong. I'd tell you that if you didn't have your comments and ratings turned off like a pathetic little child. But that's a common characteristic of the religious, isn't it? They're children. They want to pontificate faith from the pulpit, not debate facts in the trenches. Because I think that deep down, they know they'd lose. So they hide. And that's sad.
Well, I would submit to you, do you know everything?
No, nor do I claim that I do. But I'm not the one throwing around asinine straw men like Christoph here is. He's out talking to himself and then responding with praise because he must be absolutely correct. Just ask him. There's something mentally screwed up with that, right?
Do you know everything that there is to know in this universe? If the answer to that question is no, then I would say, well, isn't it possible? Not necessarily likely or probable, but isn't it possible that God exists outside of your sphere of knowledge?
Possible? Sure. Likely? No. But isn't it possible that Krishna exists outside of your sphere of knowledge? Yet you don't believe in Krishna, do you? Or Ra, or Thor, or the flying spaghetti monster. All of these things could exist, yet you don't believe in them. Why not? Now, for the religious, that's not a rational decision. It's based on faith. Your personal deity must be real, and that automatically makes all of the competing deities false. But for rational people, of which I am, and you're clearly not, we don't accept anything for which there is no objectively corroboratory evidence. Nothing. That means I don't believe in ghosts or aliens or gods or honest politicians. I believe in nothing until I see the evidence that shows that it is most likely to be true. And even then, I have no belief that something must be true. I could be wrong, and tomorrow, evidence that shows that my initial acceptance was misplaced may be found. Then, I change my mind. I bet Christoph here would never be willing to do that with his imaginary friend, would he?
You might say, well, no. Then I would say to you again, do you know everything? Or you do know everything then, right?
Well, I'm starting to suspect that Christoph here is an idiot. And that's based on a growing pile of evidence. Yeah, this is kind of what I expected getting into this. I don't think we'll be pursuing this particular brand of religious insanity further.
Well, no, I don't know everything. Well, if you don't know everything, isn't it possible for God to exist outside of what you know?
Sure. And isn't it possible that God doesn't exist outside of what you believe? Because we're being honest here, right? Well, at least one of us is. I'm pretty sure that's not the case. But for the sake of argument, assuming you'd ever respond to anything anyone said against you on YouTube, what would Christoph say? Because I'm willing to bet that he'd deny that he doesn't know everything about his magical friend in the sky. Most theists seem to think they know it all, mostly because they just made it all up.
An honest person would have to say, well, yes, it's possible. I may not believe it. It may not be likely, but it's possible. Why? Because I don't know everything.
And I'm an honest person. I've already acknowledged that. But we have copious evidence that Christoph is not an honest person. He's a theist with an agenda. Unfortunately, what he's entirely lacking is a clue, or an honest bone in his body, which we'd point out if we could talk to him, but he's too busy telling us that we're dishonest while he's hiding from the truth. But what else is new?
But if you're the atheist who says there is no God, you're taking the position that you know everything. Everything that there is to be known.
Go ahead and let us know when you actually find the atheist that says that. I have a feeling we'll be waiting for a very, very long time. Because even the definition that you dishonestly deleted from your video says that's not what atheism is.
That's not honesty, because nobody knows everything.
And you're a moron, because you have no idea what the modern usage of those words actually is. As much as I'd hate to have to go back and point out the definitions again, as I've done many, many times in the past, but agnosticism and atheism are entirely different things and address entirely different propositions. Atheism and theism address belief. Do you believe in a God? If you say yes, then you are a theist. Any other response, including I don't know and I don't care, that makes you an atheist. Agnosticism and Gnosticism is something entirely different. It has to do with knowledge. Do you profess knowledge that there is a God in this context? If you say yes, then you are a Gnostic, although that term is rarely used today. If you say no, then you are an agnostic. And newsflash for you, Skippy, everyone is both an atheist or a theist and a Gnostic or an agnostic. Everyone, even you. But that would actually take a clue, and you're clearly lacking in that department.
So maybe you've started out this message as an atheist. I say, do you know everything? You say no. Is it possible for God to exist outside of what you know? If you say yes to that question, guess what? You're no longer an atheist. You're now an agnostic. You admit, yes, it's possible that God exists.
Yes, I do. That still doesn't make me an agnostic in the sense that you mean, although I certainly am an agnostic atheist. And I never understood why these people were so hip on agnostics over atheists. Agnostics also don't believe in their gods. Agnostics are no more likely to adopt belief in their gods than atheists are. What's the attraction except, well, at least they don't deny our gods are real? In other words, it's a distinction only for the feelings of the religious. It doesn't really matter in any other way. And I think that's funny that they want us to be agnostics, but they're clearly not agnostic themselves. Can we ask them if they know everything? Because they sure seem to think they know that other gods aren't real, right? But hey, that's just a big steaming pile of absurd hypocrisy. We're not really surprised, right?
So, friend, agnostic, you're now saying, God, it's possible that you exist. And that's the starting point.
Yeah, sorry. Nobody's impressed. Agnostics aren't either. This is really just a desperation move. They know they can't convince anyone of their beliefs rationally, so they're trying to do it emotionally. Except it doesn't work that way. I am no more likely to accept the Christian God is real without evidence than I am to accept any other God is real without evidence. I will simply not do that, agnostic or not. Virtually no one will. It's why Christianity is falling apart in the first world. It's why things like the Catholic Church spent all of their time in cesspool countries without an educational system, because it's easier pickings than trying to con people in the West with their emotional pleas. The whole idea here was to be honest, and he hasn't been honest once yet. That ought to tell you something.
Jesus says, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man is hungry, let him open the door and I will come in and dine with him. It says that in Revelation 3:20.
Really? Prove it. Do more than quote a book of ancient mythology. Where is your evidence, Christoph? We know you have nothing, but please, make a bigger fool of yourself. This is why religious apologetics is so entirely unimpressive. It's also why they have to hide from us, because they're terrified that the atheists are going to come and spoil their fun. You don't see atheist channels with closed comments. That's only the religious. Why? Because the religious aren't saying anything worthwhile. Please, tell me, is this somehow a surprise to anyone?
Jesus wants to reveal himself to you. But if you say there is no God, you're keeping the door closed.
Which virtually no one actually says.
If you admit, well, there's a possibility, then I encourage you, start listening for the knocking that Jesus is doing at the door of your heart.
But what if I only hear the knocking that the flying spaghetti monster is doing with her noodly appendages? Because being open to God means I have to be open to all possible gods. And there's an awful lot of those. So my question becomes, how do I differentiate between Jesus and any of the others? Because I bet that's a question you simply have no answer for. You'll just assume that people will come to the conclusion that you want them to come to, but that's not a rational position to take. Every religion is potentially trying to do the exact same thing that you're doing. Be open to my gods. Okay, now show me that your gods are real. Give me something other than knocking on my metaphorical heart. Hello? Anyone there? Of course not, because they've got nothing to say beyond that.
It's up to him to reveal himself to you, but it's up to you to open the door.
Let me know when he reveals himself then, because I've been doing this for a very, very long time, and nothing has happened so far. It's not like I'm not open to it, just nothing has happened. It really doesn't seem like there's anything there, you know? Now, someone like Christoph won't admit that, of course, because hey, this is all just an emotionally comforting delusion that he desperately wants to be true, and he's not remotely honest enough to admit that it's all just a game. But it's a legitimate question that should be asked, and if Christianity was a worthwhile belief, it ought to have a legitimate answer. Too bad it doesn't.
So this has been the first message of many, I hope. Dear atheist, I could say now dear agnostic.
Yeah, I think I'm going to let this drop here because I've spent the first 5 minutes waiting for him to say anything intelligent, and he hasn't even gotten close. That's not much of a surprise, and honestly, I don't think anyone really expected him to. But I also didn't expect him to be quite as dishonest as he turned out to be. Again, that shouldn't have been particularly shocking because, after having done this for as long as I have, dishonesty is something that we've come to expect from the religious. They can't behave rationally, so they have to try to trick the gullible into buying into their ridiculous load of nonsense any way that they can. They play word games with concepts they simply do not understand. They make empty claims that do not stand up to a moment's critical scrutiny. They rely on faith and ignore facts when the facts are inconvenient. They fail to recognize their own bald hypocrisy. Then they call out others while ignoring the fact that they themselves are doing the exact same thing. And they expect people to follow their beliefs while demanding they don't fall for the beliefs of others who are following the exact same playbook. What else is there to say? You failed, Christoph, and I can't even tell you how badly you failed because you're too chicken shit to open your comments. That's about as damning criticism as you can get, and you did it to yourself. What the hell is wrong with you?
Boom, dicky, 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 boom.